Scary vibes, though, Giglio. Because you know what happened on Saturday? Scary, getting people in their feelings.
North Carolina did the damn thing.
They did. They did do the damn thing. Not a great start for the Tar Heels, but if you've been watching North Carolina, that's really not the point. It's the second half where things get going for the Tar Heels. They adjusted. Pitt didn't. It's as simple as that, and that's been kind of North Carolina's MO. Their defense has fully accepted the whole bend, don't break, make a couple stops, play a little complimentary football, let Drake May do his thing. And there you go. The rest is history. North Carolina beats Pitt, and they're essentially, with 4 games remaining, 2 games from winning the Coastal Division. They've got Virginia and they got Georgia Tech. They should beat Virginia and Georgia Tech. Wake Forest and NC State, that's a different matter entirely. I'm not saying they can't win those games. I think we all expect Wake Forest to be a track meet. I think that's what we expect, right?
Yes.
Okay. And when rivalry games happen, man, hey, look, one thing we know about North Carolina, they're capable of winning any game, but they're also capable of losing any game. And when you throw rivalry dynamics in the boat, and who knows what NC State's playing for at the end of the year, I'm not ready to call that yet for
I know
the
what
Tar
NC
Heels.
State's playing for.
What are they playing for?
To ruin North Carolina's season.
Right, and that's entirely possible. That's why I do not dismiss these games. So this is a year that is 1 year removed from what was supposed to be the special season for the Tar Heels.
Right.
It was all about Sam Howell, the preseason hype, and obviously that did not go their way. It's NC State's turn to play the hyped-up season. Things have not turned out the way they thought it would, and then you watch your rival take your lunch money, like what happened at the end of last year. Mac Brown was asked about the special nature of this season so far, where they bounced back from a thorough ass-kicking at the hands of Notre Dame and find themselves essentially 2 games from winning the Coastal Division.
Special players make special seasons, and these guys they're just clicking. And I don't want to be rude about last year's team because there were some great players on that team and great people. For some reason, we didn't have that same thing. We just couldn't finish at Pitt. Just to think that we were first and goal at the 2 with 1:16 left. I'll never forget that, the finish that we didn't do at State. Those are things that just drive coaches batty because you're in charge of their mentality and getting them to that point. And for whatever reason, I missed it last year. And the guys understood with me that that's unacceptable. That's not fair to North Carolina, not fair to us to work this hard and not finish games. And that's what this team is doing.
That's Mac Brown, head coach North Carolina, after a nice win against Pitt. I talk about adjustments, too. A lot of focus has been on what the defense has been able to prevent from happening. But credit to North Carolina for saying, you know what, this run game ain't working. Caleb Hood hurt, announced today that he's done for the season. So pass the ball more. Here's Mac Brown with an exchange apparently with Phil Longo. Now, Giglio, I want you to listen to this closely. Is this Mac Brown just talking about what actually happened, or is this Mac Brown as subtweeting Pat Narduzzi, the head coach of Pitt?
I'm a guy that in my younger days would have been mad that we had 86 yards rushing, and instead I told them at halftime, forget it, man. Go do what we need to do to win the game. Let's don't waste plays running the ball if they've got too many in the box. That doesn't make sense. That's just being stubborn, and it really worked the second half.
Or is that Mac Brown not necessarily subtweeting Pat Narduzzi, who insisted on running the ball in the second half? And that's a shot over at Tim Beck and Dave Dorn at NC State, which get stubborn about things. And when they're down a couple scores, then they finally open up the playbook. Who's Mac Brown subtweeting?
That would be more likely to be at Narduzzi, though.
Yeah,
Instead of engaging in that. Let me just tell you, hats off to Phil Longo. I love what they do with Josh Downs. Mm-hmm. And in part, do you want to know why I love what they do with Josh Downs? Not because his dad played at State and he should be at State. No. They use Josh Downs. Phil Longo uses Josh Downs the way that Mike O'Kane used Torrey Holt. They put him in the backfield. They put him in the slot. They put him in motion. They move him around the field. Everybody knows Josh Downs is getting the ball. But guess what? They find ways to get him the ball, and he makes plays. It's really amazing. I watched that game Saturday night. That was my biggest takeaway from that. Yes, Drake May. I told you after I saw him at the Duke game. He's a dude.
Yeah.
All right? People, I had them ranked higher than anybody else, and oh my God, you're a homer, you're this, you're that. I don't even know what the hell I am anymore with these top 25 votes. All I'm telling you is I know what I see, and I trust what I see. Josh Downs, the way that they had him in the backfield, they had the second touchdown he scored, they moved him after using him on the screen, which was basically a sweep play to him. Mm-hmm. They moved him to the slot, hit him on the shot down the field. It was a beautifully designed football play. So my hat is off to Phil Longo and what they've been able to do this year, not only with Drake May, but with Josh Downs.
About Drake May, there's a lot of folks, and again, it's social media reaction, and a lot of it is from opposing fans. And they're like, psh, how is he a Heisman candidate? How is he a Heisman candidate? Well, he's putting up numbers. That's how he's a Heisman candidate. He's got 389 total yards per game on average, and he's got 32 touchdowns that he's technically responsible for. ESPN put up this QB comparison over the weekend, and you can't not look at it and go, well, yeah, he belongs in the conversation, or at least he should be invited to New York. You look at C.J. Stroud, who we talked about at the beginning of the show. He's got 297.
I was going to say, just watch the games.
Watch the games.
Just watch them.
Well, we'll get to that in a second. 297 yards per game, 29 TDs that he's responsible for. And you got Bryce Young at Alabama, where Drake May could have gone, 292 yards per game, responsible for 21 touchdowns. So sheer numbers alone, Drake May absolutely belongs in the conversation. Now it gets to the level of competition. You can only play who you can play. And I know that really leads into lots of conversation about why divisions suck. I get it. But ESPN's David Hale did a blind comparison between North Carolina and Southern Cal. They're essentially the same team, Southern Cal and UNC. Both have one loss to a preseason top 10. We know how Notre Dame's season has gone after they kicked North Carolina's ass. They basically have the same strength of record. If you're not familiar with the strength of record, it is a measure of a team's accomplishment based on how difficult a team's win-loss record is to achieve. They're 14th. I want to say Southern Cal is at like 10. UNC has 4 road wins, 1 win against the FPI top 50. That's the FPI is essentially ESPN's KenPom for football. It's a predictive measure.
Is it Duke?
I think it is. And then they're number 3 in total QBR. Now, their win percentage of their opponents isn't great, and their defense isn't great either. But that's not the point. There's a lot of teams like North Carolina. Yeah. There's a lot of them. And that's when you start going into laundry. That's why Ohio State gets discussed the way they get discussed. Why Southern Cal, everybody's in love with Lincoln Riley and what they're doing there. And with QB numbers, again, just said it. He absolutely has entered the chat when it comes to a Heisman conversation. Don't dismiss it because you don't like North Carolina. It's real simple. Don't dismiss it. Those numbers cannot be dismissed. The real question for North Carolina going forward is, you're going to represent the Coastal unless you really crap the bed. The question is, on the basis of they can win any game and they can lose any game, can they truly hang with Clemson in an ACC championship game?
Absolutely.
You think they can win?
Absolutely.
I don't know, man. That's the problem is the last time they faced a team with a front like that, it was Notre Dame. There has to be a huge level of improvement to get on a team like Clemson. And I get that's where people from the Atlantic have a problem with what North Carolina's doing, because when you look at the Atlantic, there are better teams there. North Carolina hasn't faced those teams yet, although they'll have a chance when they see Wake Forest here soon.